Hello and welcome to Small Biz Central, the show where we exchange information and ideas about small business. I'm Tim Burnero. On this episode of Small Biz Central, we are going to be talking about micro business. And of course, we're joined by our panel of experts. Don Wright with the University of Western Sydney, welcome to you.
G'day, Tim.
Angela Raspass, Director of Ideas into Action, a small business marketing agency. G'day,
Hi,
Angela.
Tim.
And Robert Gerrish, Director of Flying Solo, Australia's micro business community. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, let's meet our first micro business.
Hello, my name's Dee. I'm the owner of Bubble Craft and Clothing. I have 2 young children, so I work from home. I make and sell Australian-themed dress-ups and clothing. About 8 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to make some fairy dresses for her 2 daughters. And having come from the UK, I've always been interested in the difference of the gardens in Australia and in England. So I put an Australian theme into the garden fairy dresses that I made, and Bubble really started there. I make everything here at home. Some of my products here include gumnut fairy hats, dresses, dragonfly and butterfly wings. I sit at my sewing machine and make it all while the kids are at school or at daycare. I sell my products at local markets in the Blue Mountains, which is where I live. I started doing that as it was the only way I could think of to sell my products. And recently I've started a website. I wanted to expand my clientele, so I started, with the help of a friend, a local business Facebook page. That's gone really well. I've been really well received. And there are lots of mums who make on Facebook, and we all look at each other's stuff and help each other market. I really enjoy the creative side. I love the figuring out what to do and designing. But a challenge for me is the marketing. I'm not very good at that. I'm not really good at marketing and selling. I started in retail and also got a qualification back in the UK in pattern making. Worked over here in Australia in retail as well as a visual merchandiser. One of the potential challenges I face is, because my product is quite unusual, that it will get copied. I do worry that I don't trademark my products, and you do often see people out there with cameras taking pictures of your stuff. I have seen a friend's stuff get copied and is now sold in $2 shops. My main costs are time and materials, which I source locally in small amounts. I tend not to be able to bulk buy. For this reason, it is hard for me to compete with overseas products. Now that I've started dealing with retail outlets a little bit, I've realised that I don't really know much about pricing and other things that may crop up. At the moment, as I'm a mother of 2 small children, I'm pretty much at capacity making-wise, but hopefully in a year's time when my daughter goes to school, I'll have a bit more time and can expand the business into something a bit bigger.
Dee's just starting and she's got a fantastic little business. Angela, what do you think?
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. It's the type of business that fits her lifestyle at the moment. It lets her use her creativity, which so many of us, when we start our solo and micro businesses, we're working with a passion that we have, taking it to market, then, oh my goodness, there's a demand for it, and slowly expanding from there. I think some of the things that she's doing at the moment, why she's gone using the market, she's got online, she's talking to retailers, so she's ready to take those next steps. And like many small business owners, she recognises that perhaps marketing is a challenge for her, so she's reaching out for some help, and there's lots to be accessed.
Robert?
Yeah, look, I think so too. I mean, a great little business, and it looks like one of the very good things is Dee is very clear on what she needs to learn more about. You know, she talked about some exposure that she has with trademarking. She talked about the fact she needs to learn more about retail and about pricing. So, you know, she knows what she needs to do, which is often the case with a lot of businesses they do, but we get taken over by the kind of day-to-day running of a business and tend not to focus on them. So great opportunities there, and I think some risks that she needs to focus on, pretty clearly, I think.
Something that really struck me, Tim, was she said mums who make. which I think is great, and there's a community there, and I think there's lots of opportunities for her to maybe collaborate with some of those mums who make, and maybe put a joint marketing front together, maybe create a group branding of their products if there's similar products. I've worked with a lot of businesses in manufacturing who've done that really successfully, and they've gotten together and leveraged their marketing potential, can even be buying power for things like jointly sourcing materials, so lots of opportunities there.
Robert, let's just rewind a little bit. What exactly is a micro business? I mean, how many are there?
Okay, well, I'll answer your first part first. A micro business officially is a business that employs up to 5 people. So as to how many there are, the Australian Bureau of Statistics puts a number at something over 2 million. But within that sector, or within that group, the majority of them are actually people that work by themselves. So when we talk about micro business, the majority of them are actually solo operators or sole operators. And the number there of that kind of makeup is well over 70% of Australian small businesses kind of fit into that category. So a massive workforce, and most of them are doing this as a kind of a lifestyle choice. As we saw in Dee's case, she's doing it because it fits well with her family and with her children, and this is often the motivation for a lot of people running a micro business, is so that they can fit it into their life.
What is the advantage of micro business? I mean, for me, I instantly think no boss, no office politics.
Well, those are 2 pretty good ones. It allows you flexibility. I mean, and sort of unrestricted level of flexibility. You can design how you work, depending on what kind of industry you're in, of course. But we can adapt and move very quickly as a micro business, so we don't have to kind of get decisions signed off. We can respond. So micro businesses are very responsive in what they do. We can move where the market dictates, which I think is a very good and very appealing aspect of running a micro business.
And Dee's quite typical in the sense that she started as a hobby. And I know you've said on your website that a lot of people start there, and then it sort of evolves into a business.
It does, and not always in the way that people would expect as well. As Angela said, passion is what drives a lot of people starting a micro business, and passion is very essential, particularly in the early days, but it's kind of in isolation it's not enough. Passion, it does not show you how to operate procedures or how to structure your business or to handle your accounts or your marketing. So it's a very useful driver, but we need more structure. And there's wonderful resources, be they online or through books that you can buy, that will help you kind of add some structure to a business. So this is often an area that micro businesses need to focus on, is getting this, the foundation set up.
And I know Flying Solo is a fantastic resource as well as having sort of 20 dedicated Australian writers. You've also got the forums where people can actually talk to each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we like to have a discussion here on Small Biz Central, so we're going to go back to Dee. She's got a question for you guys.
My question to the panel is, how do I get my stuff out there and maximise profits without losing creative control?
Don, it's a good question. I suppose it's about finding a balance between what you like and what the market does, what's commercialisable, if you like.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to get too caught up in maintaining control of the product. Certainly I don't think she needs to lose creative control, but she does need to listen to the market, and if there's feedback that's suggesting she needs to make some refinements or some changes, then I think she needs to respond. One thing that I see in a business like this that's growing and moving to the next level, it's about focusing on what really works. So she may need to take a step back, look at the product lines, break it up and say what's working best and really focus on that.
And what's unique about her business as well.
That's right.
So should she be dumping the markets and then using that time to...
Well, look, I mean, that's a possibility, is to maybe look at her time and how she allocates it, and is she better off maybe getting someone else to go to the markets and do the selling, and maybe she spends some more time working on her website or other ways that she wants to be more productive. But certainly I wouldn't be jumping out to dump the market straight away. I think that's obviously an important part of the business.
Angela, what do you think about Dee's online strategy?
Well, I think the great thing about online for a solo or a micro business owner is the fact that suddenly the market is so much more open to you. At the moment she's working very locally, as she said, starting off in those markets in her local area, but having a great website and a good Facebook presence on social media suddenly opens that so much further. So I think the markets are important for her to start to build her reputation, to start building her database, get some good feedback on the type of products that she's got. What else do people want, encouraging them to refer other people to her, but then come back, yes, and look at that website. How can we write the copy well to work with what's called the Google keyword tool that allows her to find out what are people searching for online in the craft and fairy field, then changing the copy on her website so her site's more likely to be found, and building up that database on there and doing a newsletter so people who are associated with their site know what the new items that are coming out and how they can order them. So there's lots of things that will help her go to a larger business without having, to a larger audience without having to leave home.
I actually came across Dee on Facebook through a friend, and it came up in my newsfeed. Robert, I know you've had a chance to look at Dee's website. What are your first impressions?
Well, look, I think she's got a nice little site, and she's clearly, thought about the kind of content she wants on there. One issue I would say is that we heard from Dee that she's looking to kind of maintain, as most businesses are, the best profits that she can, and to keep her pricing nice and strong. And I think in some ways her website is not supporting that, because it's a fairly low-cost website, which is fine to get started. But if I was her, I'd certainly be looking to put some money aside on a regular basis and creating a bit of a picture and a plan for a website that will just have a little bit kind of a stronger position than the one that she's currently got. And I think, just to build on the points that Angela was saying, that with a brand and a product such as Dee has, word of mouth can really be the saviour for a business like that. And I think that while she's starting on Facebook, fantastic to embrace community like that, but I think what she needs to be doing as well is making sure that she really does kind of over-deliver to the customers that she's got, because they will be the people that will do her marketing for her.
I think one of your recent surveys said that, or that you found with your sample of 1,300 micro businesses, that 85% still think that word of mouth and that kind of referral is their main way of getting business.
Absolutely, yeah. And there is a little bit of a danger out there at the moment in micro business that if we do a little bit of activity on social networking, on Facebook and Twitter, that we can kind of assume that the job is done, but it isn't. Word of mouth, good old-fashioned people talking to other people is still by far the strongest. And with a product like this, every time a mother or a parent goes out with a child dressed in those clothes, you can bet your life someone's going to say, where did you get that? We need to give customers the tools to pass it on.
Now, what about the disadvantages of micro business and some of the pitfalls? I mean, I instantly think of having to provide your own discipline, even though you're working at home, and also just loneliness, because we know that 70% of micro businesses are actually home-based.
Yeah, very true. Look, it doesn't suit everybody, that's the first thing to say. But I think that connection is very, very important, and Don talked about it as well, collaboration and connection. What we have within Australia, within the micro business market, is a lot of people. I think it's 1 in 3 houses in most residential streets have got a home-based business in it. So there's no excuse for not connecting, and we bump into other business owners, be it at school pickup or at sports events, and creating little groups where you can work with each other, hold each other accountable, are so powerful. And we see this happening a lot in the forums in our business, where people are organising little meetups, and they're so strong to do that. And we have business enterprise networks, other places as well, where people can go to get very low cost, very good support. And education. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm exhausted. You must be too. Let's go to a quick break. Welcome back. Let's meet our second micro business.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm the owner of Energetic Fitness, which is a personal outdoor training company. I specialise in one-on-one personal training and also group personal training, incorporating boxing, circuit training, all kinds of high energy, high intensity fitness and cardio training. I get really involved in each of my sessions, hence why I'm called Energetic Fitness. I decided to go into the fitness industry because I've always been really interested in fitness and health. I've really enjoyed working outdoors, so just wanted to work in the fitness industry, helping people achieving their goals. I did a small business course to find out if my project was feasible. Once I found out that it was feasible, I then went on to doing Cert 3 and 4 in fitness and qualified in December last year. After doing heaps of research on the fitness industry, I realised that it was the up-and-coming industry to be in. Everyone wants a personal trainer, and everyone wants to be a personal trainer. And I haven't found finding clients to be really hard at the moment. I'm just word of mouth. I haven't had to advertise to the newspapers or radios, just friends of friends of friends. finding clients are coming to me quite easily. Before each session, what I do with clients is we go through paperwork, find out what their goals are, what the period, the time frame that they want to achieve those goals, and then I help work towards achieving their goals. And that's why my slogan is motivation, inspiration and results. One of my training sessions would consist of a lot of cardio work as well as boxing. So I incorporate things like resistance training, strength training, as well as high intensity cardio, so they get an all over body workout. I've decided to market myself mainly through word of mouth. I haven't as yet got a website just because I'm in that dilemma, as in I have enough clients at the moment, so it's not important for me to have the website up and running, whereas if I had more time, that would be the first thing that I decide to do. I also use the likes of Facebook just to connect with friends, and they can pass it on to their friends, and it seems to be working for me so far. My business plan over the next couple of years is to transition from working in the recruitment industry to working in the fitness industry full time. So transitioning, so my main income being personal training. Which I'm finding it really difficult at the moment because I've had security working for a recruitment agency for 9 years. Concentrating in the fitness industry is a bit scary, but there's definitely where I want to take my business in the next few years. At this stage, the business is only part-time, and any money that I am making, I have to just reinvest to buy the equipment. But my long-term goal is to have the equipment bought and then make this my full-time career.
Well, Nat's got a fantastic little business, and you can tell she's a personal trainer just by looking at those arms. Angela, what are your first impressions, maybe from a marketing point of view?
Okay, from a marketing perspective, she's sitting in that position where she's going to make the jump. It's clear that she wants to go in that direction. She's articulated clearly that's where her passion lies. And when she was talking about things such as, I don't have a website yet because I've got as much work as I can handle, but when she makes the jump, the website's going to be essential. Word of mouth is fantastic, and that's filling up those books at the moment. But to make the plan for when she switches on and does make that jump, there's some other marketing tools that she'll certainly need in place. Her brand is strong, the energetic fitness. That comes out. She personifies the brand. So that's a great starting point. But yeah, let's, as the next step, start looking how she can have that online presence and spread the word wider than her immediate friends.
Robert, you're seeing micro businesses every day of the week. What are your first impressions?
Oh, look, great little business, very energetic and passionate business owner, and clearly things are working for her. And I think there's a lot of very good signals there that she's got a business that's going to work. I mean, what I'd like to hear a little bit more about is where is the business going? If she's already kind of full of clients, is she thinking about maybe taking on another trainer to work with her? Aspirations and where she's kind of planning to go would be interesting to hear, because I think it's one thing to fill your own kind of training business. It's another if you want to kind of replicate yourself. And the dangers, of course, in this kind of business is if she injures herself, then suddenly she's not working, she's not earning. Things can change fairly quickly. So there's some considerations there, I think, in this sort of business. There's also a longevity issue. She's young and energetic now, but, hey, get to my age, you slow down a bit. So then she might need to be thinking, although it might seem strange to her, but thinking about where is this all going? Where do I want to be in a few years' time? Considerations, but a great looking business, no doubt.
What do you do in that situation if you're a sole trader and you get sick? And what about things like super?
Well, okay, obviously you can start your own super fund, and ideally one should. A lot of businesses, though, when they're starting, are probably a little bit cash poor and don't think about those things. And if they're a little bit younger as well, they think that super is for the old guys. But it's certainly a consideration should be thinking about. You can get insurances that will cover you as well if you're sick away from your work. So you can do things, but it does obviously can create an issue. If you're a sole operator and you are basically selling your professional services for a fee, then if you don't show up for work, you don't earn money. But again, she could be looking in the future at adding some products, some videos, books maybe, things that can extend and expand her income stream.
Don, we talked a little bit when we were meeting Dee about her trademark issues. Is it worth the cost? Is it worth the time? And I suppose Natalie has to make a decision about trademarking her name and things like that, especially when she goes online.
I think that's right. No, I suppose just picking up on Angela's point about the website, I see that as an opportunity for her to start working through the marketing issues now, if she starts to think about that. And as Robert said, there's opportunities for personal trainers, putting videos online, little exercise routines. Again, we talked about adding value to your website above and beyond just promotion. So I'd like to see her really focus on that website and try to get that up and running before she makes that jump, as Angela said.
And there's so many free tools. I mean, Google Analytics is a really good and interesting example where you can get some statistics on your website, who's looking at it, when, where in the world, all that sort of stuff. Just quickly, Robert, what are some of the pitfalls of micro business? I know having your office in your bedroom can be a problem because you physically never turn off. You're lying in bed looking at the computer. What are some of the other little pitfalls that we can easily avoid?
Well, certainly the one you touched on there is kind of delineating a workspace can be very, very important, and just having it in amongst your normal daily life doesn't always work, and often doesn't work. Having boundaries, establishing boundaries either with your family or neighbours or friends is also very important, because when you first start a business, again, bearing in mind that most of these businesses are at home, it can be very lovely to have your family wandering in and out of your workspace and your friends and family coming over, but when you need to focus, you need to focus. So establishing boundaries is very, very important.
So that flexibility can be a bit of a double-edged sword. So you've got to set up both physical and time boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Natalie's got a question for you guys. Let's have a look.
My question to the panel is, when do I make my small business my sole income? Is there a time, and will I know when that time is?
Well, that's a great question, Don.
Look, I was in that situation. I came out of a full-time job and moved into my own consulting business, and I sort of feel like it does come to you naturally. You sort of, the right time appears and you start to understand, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do the full-time job anymore, plus keep these other clients happy. So to me, it'll come naturally, I suppose, is the answer. But the other thing is to look at the financial side, to start planning cash flow and start looking at potential revenue and your costs, and that will help you crystallise that picture as well.
Angela, we talked a little bit before about setting up some super and getting some cover if you get sick. What about things like, I know that Nat, when we went and met her, she has a problem where if the weather's bad, everyone cancels. So how do you deal with that?
Well, I guess what you can do there is have different type of service lines. So at the heart of her business is the enjoyment of actually working out outdoors. But yeah, you need a backup plan. I think if she looks at the clients she's got now, she might find they fall into different types of categories. At the moment, it's very focused on the scared the heck out of me, the high cardio type of thing that is perfect for the sort of audience that she's working with. But perhaps she can segment her market and find perhaps at 9:30 during the week, the women who've dropped their kids off at school might want a class, and she might be able to speak to a local school or a local hall about actually doing a fitness class inside. So she could have other alternatives rather than just relying on the outside training. I think it's important to have a look at those as well.
Don, rather than quitting that full-time job, is it an option or is it advisable for her to take on some part-time work maybe? I don't know if it's an option for her, but at maybe another firm, get a couple of days a week, or should she just plunge on into the business?
Look, that can be a great option, to try and transition out of full-time employment.
She works in recruitment, that's what she's doing.
Right, yeah. I mean, certainly if she could manage that, I think that would be a good option for her. Again, it's to keep it manageable, because you can't sustain a real high-intensity 2 jobs forever. At some point it will burn you out. So I think some transition plan is a good thing. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about, in general terms, about micro business. I know you said before that 70% are actually home-based, and Natalie's part of the 50% of micro businesses which actually sell services. Yep. Dee was a bit of an exception in that only 10% apparently, you found in one of your recent surveys, actually sell products or widgets or however you want to term it. But also you found in this survey that 50% of sole traders are, a little bit older, a bit more experienced, between 40 and 54. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other common traits demographically, I suppose, about micro business people?
Well, you've covered a lot of them, to be honest. I mean, the age range is fairly broad, and I should hasten to add as well that the statistics that you kindly quoted are from our own audience. So yes, ours are largely Gen X or baby boomers, the majority of them.
Oh, I see. Right.
But Natalie, I think, would fall out of that side. So there's a lot of young people coming into business, and they have, a lot of them, the same sort of concerns or considerations that Nat has, is when do I kind of make the leap? But this kind of the split in terms of male and female is pretty well down the middle. And people, again, from our community that we research, The majority of them are selling professional services as opposed to product. But there are a number of people now, again, as it gets easier and easier online to establish an online business, whether you're selling through your own kind of online site or you're doing through eBay or whatever. So I think we're going to see this growth continue, and I think what we'll get is more and more variety coming into the marketplace, and it's all good as far as I can say.
One thing I'd say, Tim, that was really interesting for me, when I came out of a corporate job and moved into my own consulting business, you have to do everything. And that was one challenge that I really found. You have to fix the IT, you have to manage the finances, you have to do the selling, you have to do the work, you have to do the follow-up. So that's one, and coming out of a corporate job, a lot of people, you have those comforts around you, those people to manage those things. So that's one interesting challenge that I found.
Yeah, and I think, if I can pick up on that, it's also a bit of a trap as well, I think, because the mindset often of a micro business is that they have to do all those things. Whereas in fact what we need to do, I think we need to have an understanding of them, but then we need to embrace being able to actually get others to,
How we can be helped,
delegating other work. And again, within this whole workforce of micro business, there's so many people that can do your bookkeeping or your writing or setting up, in that case, appointments for people or alerting people via SMS if the weather's bad. We can outsource, and we should outsource.
Yeah.
So that's sort of bookkeeping, admin, and I suppose even web design is another good example.
Absolutely.
Everything can be outsourced. It's just focus on your core strengths and really play to those, and outsource the other pieces. And probably the last thing to look at with that sort of circuit is the importance of networking, because as a soloist you can get quite isolated, and to actually reach out and get into physical networking where you're going to networking events can really help you feel more connected and tap into those services that you can use.
So it's even more important in micro business than some of the other businesses we discuss here on Small Biz Central. Well, let's recap this week's episode. For many, micro business is a lifestyle choice. Being a solo operator offers an escape from office politics and work-life balance issues. But the flip side can be challenges around loneliness, self-discipline, and establishing boundaries between home and work. Micro businesses have the flexibility to quickly adapt to new opportunities and to expand income streams. Networking and cooperation is important for micro businesses, providing support, reduced marketing costs, and increased buying power. It's important in micro business to focus on core strengths and outsource things like bookkeeping and administration. Can I thank you all, because we've come to the end of our time today, so thanks for joining us. And of course, can we thank all the micro businesses that were on our show. We wouldn't have a show without their cooperation, so thanks to them. Of course, we've got lots of fantastic resources online. You can visit them through our portal, our website, www.smallbizcentral.com.au. We'll see you next time.